Hi, fans of trumpet music. Thanks for joining me again today. I want to play a famous solo from the opera literature. What got me onto this was it's on a fair number of auditions, and it's a very different style. And when I did a couple of videos on vibrato, and in the second one, I realized, oh yeah, I forgot to play this tune, the solo from the beginning of Act 2 of Don Pasquale for you guys, and so I thought I would do that now. So here it is. Sorry, I don't have an orchestra. I'm not playing in a hall. I'm playing in a room with a microphone. But I hope the spirit of the music comes through. Ooh, sounds deep, mournful, hopeless. Oh, the drama of opera. It's our job to get all that across without the words, without the costumes. Just the whole story has to be told with our sound, and whatever we can convey in the sound, the timing, the phrasing, the pronunciation. So I want to give you a couple of suggestions of things to think about, not think about, that's not the right word, things to listen for when you're listening to accomplished musicians perform, and things to try and pick up on, ingredients as I call them, that when you put them together and you pay attention to each one, you can really create a wonderful composition. So a big part of this is it's a vocal style, so there's phrasing involved. So first thing I do is I look at the shape. That's exactly right. So there's all these notes. Notes go up and down. There's accents. There's grace. There's lots of details, but you don't want to miss the main idea. Now you heard when I played that as one idea, but with shape. So the shape is shown with a lot of different devices. You heard me doing things with the dynamics, with the color, with the vibrato, as I talked about previously, with breath inflection, with timing. And all these things work together. But if you have great ears, You can pick all this stuff up by ear, and that is the best way to learn it. Imitate. Listen to something that just like, oh wow, I love the way that sounds. And then see if you can figure out what are the ingredients, and then practice them one at a time until they blend together. So we got to make decisions when you play this piece. And one of the distracting things is there's a lot of markings on the music. You see piano, dot, staccato, and accent all on one note. You need to translate that into sound. What does that mean? So I just made an interpretation. Now, to me, it doesn't really fit the character of the music. The fact that this is kind of a prelude to an aria. It is a prelude to an aria, and it should carry the same kind of emotional content to set up the singer when they begin telling the story. So I'll go back to the simple stuff again. You see there's a shape to that line, a melodic shape. And if I think that as one idea, then I'm going to pay less attention, and I don't want to bring as much attention to the individual notes. They need to complement it. So it's all proportion is really important. How am I going to do the articulation? What I do, and this is how I suggest you practice, when you hear a sound that you like, a marcato sound, or a light staccato, let's say, or a heavy tenuto, or something that you go like, wow, that is cool. I like the way that sounds. It has meaning to it. It conveys some kind of feeling with it. Then practice that by itself. If you're listening closely, you can probably hear I'm doing things a little bit differently now. I'm feeling it differently. The music is alive. It's dynamic. It happens in the moment. It's like listening to a thought. And when the thought comes through your mind, it's alive. It will never happen exactly that same way again. So even though the notes are the same, the melody is the same, the harmonic progression is the same, the music is alive. That's what you need to really be paying attention to when you're trying to develop these things. It's not just decisions about the ingredients, but how do they work together in the moment. And this takes a lot of work. But to me, that's what's fun about being a musician, is playing around with all these expressive devices, you might say. It's not a good word. Expressive ingredients, colors, textures, timing, as I said before. So I hope you can just hear some of the stuff I'm doing. And what most people miss when they do this is they're not thinking in long ideas. They're thinking note by note and maybe phrase by phrase, which is okay. But if you go a little bit faster, it's easier to hear the shape of the lines and the direction that the lines are going. And then that can come into your playing when you're playing at a more moderate tempo. So what I generally do is something that's very, very stately, largo. I play it a lot faster so I can feel the shapes. And there's something that's very fast, I play it a lot slower so I can feel the shapes. So this is something I'm strongly recommending that you do. Okay, what's another element? Well, this is a solo. So most of us grow up playing in bands. And so we're taught, there's a dotted 8/16th and there's a triplet, and they're different. And many people have trouble with the different rhythms between a dotted 8/16th and a triplet. And that's normal because they're kind of close. So Then, and very important for this particular piece, there's rhythmic interpretation. And this is not a random thing. It's a decision that you make. And once you make that decision, then by the way you play, you can show the rest of the musicians you're playing with what you're intending to do. So I've heard quite a few people play the passage I just played. See, that's all triplets. And that's okay, but to me it loses some of its rhythmic energy, some of its intensity. Now, something else to listen for. This is not about math. It can start with math. You know, it's like a quarter note is divided into 4 quarters, and now you have 16th notes, and that's the subdivision. But there's a lot of timing in between the dotted 16th and the triplet feel. And those are the things that you want to pay attention to and imitate. One of the strongest examples is at the end, where the whole orchestra is going ba-ba, ba-ba. Now, see, I'm not doing 16ths. Now, I want you to understand, this is the conductor's prerogative. But a lot of times the conductor doesn't need to say anything because the musicians kind of listen to each other and they go, oh yeah, and they'll kind of go with the feeling that they get. So I did not do a 16th. I'm by going da-da, and that's perfectly fine. It's heavier, it's stronger, it's more like solid feeling. And the way I played it is actually more like ta-ta, ta-ta. You see, the ta-ta, that's trumpet music. It's a little fanfare. Ta-ta. And that's the way the piece starts. Okay. So I did 1, 2, 3, ba-bam. Not quite. I went 1, 2, 3, ba-bam, a little bit quicker than a 16th. Now, how does that work when you play in an ensemble? You listen. The principal player does a rhythmic inflection. If you're playing in this section, you go with it. You know, the principal violin concertmaster does an inflection. One of the principal winds does an inflection. You hear a certain rhythmic inflection in the basses or in the timpani. And there's kind of a nonverbal communication that takes place. If there's confusion, the conductor's there to make a call, make a decision on this. But what I'm strongly suggesting for you to do is to practice until you become convinced of your idea and then try a different idea. So you remain very, very flexible with this. You may have noticed another spot. Now it goes into major. So the feeling is, again, there's more hopefulness. And of course it returns to depression, where it started. But in that hopefulness, I feel that the tempo wants to move a little bit. So. See, I didn't play 16ths. I'll play it as 16ths. Now you might like that better, and that's fine. That's what I'm saying. Play with it. It has to be something that comes from the muse. It's something you're in your musical imagination. And if you're a soloist, and that's what you are here when you're playing this, it's your job to make those decisions and convey them with conviction to the other players, and they'll automatically react to it. And this is the great fun of playing music together, and music should be together. That's really what it's for. It's a communal art form for sure. Okay, I'm going to go to the end and show you another little articulation. You hear the grace notes, that's all the way through. You can do those a lot of different ways. I hear, that kind of crying thing that happens in for the Italian tenors. Now here's the articulation thing. You could do it so many different ways. So you saw me conducting at the end. When you play this, you are conducting. Whenever you have a solo, you are leading, and you need to take responsibility for that job. Okay, that's probably enough to think about today, and there's way more in here. You can always listen better. You can always notice more, and then take something simple from that and just practice it by itself until it feels natural to do it. So I hope you have fun playing this. This is a beautiful little solo, and I hope you enjoyed as much as I have. I will see you later on down the road. Enjoy your practice. Bye-bye.